Hi you guys, welcome back, and today we're doing the next part for What If Krillin told Chi-Chi about her husband's death and her child kidnapping. Now, I want to say something. I understand how this timeline is very dramatic with such a small change, something that probably shouldn't have changed as much as it has. And I want to say that I started off with this What If, and it was originally going to be something completely different. However, for me to feel like I needed it to get to that point, I need to make some changes, and this just led to it becoming another What If on its own. So it ended up just being something new. So I decided I'd just have some fun with it near the start. But as time went on, I actually fell into loving this series and I decided I'm going to take it a bit more seriously. So this is probably could have been stopped a while ago. But I hope people don't mind and I hope they are enjoying it. Even though it's wacky and out of hand, it's one I enjoy doing. So I hope everyone enjoys, and let's jump in. Now, last time we left off with Goku about to head off with Whis to get some training. The Angel has given Goku the chance to bring one of his Saiyan friends along with him, and Goku, after hearing this, has no idea who to bring. He sits around for a while and then comes up with an idea. He asks Whis to wait around for a while he goes and sees what everyone's doing. With Whis obviously loving this idea, after all, he gets to enjoy a bit more food, and Bulma is willing to play along with this for now. Goku heads off thinking to go and ask Gohan first. After all, for most of his life, Gohan has been his best training partner alongside Piccolo, but Piccolo has gone off the grid recently and he doesn't really know where to find him. But he goes to Gohan's house, with him arriving and giving the offer out to Gohan, and also checking in on his daughter-in-law and how she's doing during this pregnancy. But Gohan does reject this, saying how he can't leave too much right now. He's tending to Videl and he's also trying to score a job. So if he was to go, it could only be for a few days at a time, push a week, but he would have to come back for a while and then go back again. With Goku understanding this, he heads off towards Goten, being optimistic that he will be able to go train with his son. After all, Goten has taken on a much more fighter-happy role, taking on a lot more of his father's traits in this timeline. After getting offered, Goten does want to go off and train with his father, but Chi-Chi says how he can only go for a few short trips at a time. He has to be home to study. Alongside that, she doesn't want him to be away from her for too long. But she is open to the idea with him training with one of the gods. After all, he might be able to learn some, knowledge while he's there. Goku, after hearing this, is bummed out, but he is starting to form up a plan and heads off towards Broly's new home, with the two Saiyans that are living there having settled in quite a bit. Paragus is actually taking up a small job, nothing major, but it's just something to kill time for him. And Broly is just getting used to Earth life. Goku being quite a regular to come and visit Broly, after all, he does some training with him every now and again. He extends the offer that he had been given to his two sons already. However, Broly, much like the other two, declines, explaining how he would like to adjust to Earth a lot more before he leaves for months on end, but he wouldn't mind doing some small training every now and again. But this is sort of the answer Goku was hoping for. He tells Broly, "Do you mind following me? I've got to do something quickly." And the two head off, with Goku collecting both Gohan and Goten during this trip, before all four of them head back to Whis. With the Angel confused when Goku shows up with three members, as he only said one, with Goku chuckling, saying that he knows, but not all of them are coming around at the same time. They're going to go on rotation with one another. With everyone looking confused, Goku goes on to explain how they can all just train with Whis, but for a small amount of time. So just train on rotation. 1 week we could have Goten, for a few days I could have Gohan, after that I could have Broly. This way, I get to spend time with all of you, you all get to train, Whis gets to come for food, there's no losing here. With everyone really surprised at how smart Goku was at this moment, with even Bulma saying that if Whis was to drop them off here, he could get some food, to take back to the planet. With Whis loving this idea. And to a degree he likes this idea, as it means he gets to see a lot of different fighting styles and how different people work with one another. So it will be a lot more interesting for Whis. And he asks which one will be coming first out of the three. With Gohan, Goten and Broly talking it out between each other, they decide the best bet is Broly. After all, he doesn't really have to run it by anyone. Gohan is just going to stop by Paragus and tell him what's happening, but the old man doesn't really mind. And Whis then takes the two pure-blooded Saiyans with him to Beerus's planet. Whis happy that Broly came first. After all, this is the person he's taken a bit of interest in. After all, he grew incredibly strong in a short time. It's really impressive to Whis. And after a week or two, Broly heads back to Earth, and in his place comes Gohan, who only stays for a week, then leaves with Goten coming for a week, and then heading home. With this cycle repeating for months, but sometimes Goku does have to train alone. After all, they are a bit busy, or sometimes the rotation just doesn't line up well for someone, so it ends up leaving Goku alone every now and again. But this benefits the three rotational partners a good chunk. After all, they're getting exposed to God Ki, they're training with an angel, they're training with Goku, and they're always keeping up to date with some training. But the person this truly helps out is Goku. Thanks to the fact he gets to train with three different people, Goku is getting a lot of different training. Because of this, he picks up things from each of his training partners. Alongside this, he does eventually get the Super Saiyan Blue form. However, Goku also takes some time out of his day to learn the Akari form, seeing it as a worthwhile form, but this does lead him to not getting as good a grip on his Super Saiyan Blue form as in canon. And as for power rankings amongst the Saiyans, it would probably go a bit like this. I'd put Goku above Broly, and Gohan below Broly, and I'd put Goten and Gohan around the same strength. Although if it was a fight to break out, I would put Gohan above Goten. Now, the reason Broly is so high up is the fact of how he works. With small bits of training, he can grow incredibly fast, and he's managed to just get below Goku. With Broly having a better control of his Akari form, and alongside that he has been taught the Super Saiyan form. With him being able to control it a little bit before losing his cool, Gohan and Goten have gone through very similar training. Without even really knowing it, both have gone through the same things to achieve the same thing. They have both been taught how to activate God Ki, and therefore they can now use the Super Saiyan God form. However, this is something that Goten struggles with a lot. He's still a child, and it's still a bit tasking on him, but Gohan can activate this form whenever he wants, and even tries to master the form by using it in his everyday life around the house, with Goten also trying to do the same thing but struggles to hold it for longer than a few minutes. Now, the Saiyans aren't the only ones getting stronger from the gods, but we might have to jump back a little bit. Remember how I mentioned Piccolo's missing? Well, not long after Goku and Broly, Goten, all of them came out of the hyperbolic time chamber, a few months after the Battle of Gods, Piccolo sensed something weird. It was the Kais. They had come to the planet to check up on everything after the battle, and Piccolo luckily ran into them, and he's been really bored recently. Krillin can't train too much, he's a police officer now, so he doesn't have much free time. Trunks has taken up more of an interest in training his mind, which Piccolo supports, but he wishes he had a training partner, and Yamcha's trying to be a baseball at the moment, so it's really difficult. And Piccolo thinks if the offer for them training him is still on the table, with Dakai shocked, but also explaining that, yeah, this has been on the table the whole time. Would he like to take it up? Piccolo, not having any reason to stick around for right now, decides he would like to go train. With him going through some very basic training under the Kais, and even begins to use the Z sword for training. He never tries to break it, with him respecting this object a bit more, and also seeing it as a great way to get a load of training out. He just sort of leaves it. But while Goku is training with the God of Destruction, Piccolo is training with the Kais. So it's sort of working out well where he's trying to keep up his own rate. He is taken on as an apprentice Kai, and he's taught some of the techniques alongside of these. Things like healing, the Kai Kai, all that sort of jazz. Now, because of Earth's strongest fighters being on and off the planet, it leaves Earth relatively unprotected, leaving the events of Resurrection F to pretty much set up like normal. However, it's possible that Frieza could train less. After all, the group never released Boo, so their rep might not be as scary as it was. However, since he still fought Beerus and fought him in a much more intense fight, I will say that Frieza trains just as hard and just as long, so nothing really changes with Frieza's canon counterpart. With Frieza's attack ending up on the same day as in canon, everyone shows up like normal, with the group being this time Gohan, Goten, Broly, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, Roshi and Jakko. With Piccolo being on the Supreme Kai planet, he decides to head off towards Goku to grab him, sensing how strong Frieza is and being the only person able to really get to Goku fast and then come back. However, when he arrives, he sees Goku sat around Whis' staff, watching something. With Piccolo walking up, he sees Goku watching the battle unfold, with Piccolo saying how they should leave to get, going now. However, Goku says he's confident in his friends and his son's ability to win. So if Piccolo is willing to wait, he wants to see how this will play out without him. Piccolo, very confused and almost enraged, almost says something. However, Goku says Piccolo should calm down. He might be surprised at what these three have to show off right now. He can sense how much stronger Piccolo had gotten, but I think it's time that Earth needs to defend itself without these two around. With Piccolo surprised at this level of maturity coming out of Goku, he does decide to stick around and watch. With the first part of the battle going very easy, with the soldiers being easily defeated, even some of the higher ups are very easy. Things like Togama and Chisame are very easily dispatched very fast, with this just leaving Frieza eventually. With Frieza coming out of his pod and looking around, he actually notices Yamcha. Remember him for landing a hit on him, with Yamcha wishing he had let Goku hit him those years ago. After all, he can sense how strong Frieza is, and he's not really in the same league. But from what the Earthlings can see, the likes of the Saiyans look confident and unshaken, with Gohan stepping up, offering to fight off Frieza if they want, with everyone being okay with this. Gohan faces up to Frieza, with the tyrant remembering what happened last time he was overconfident. He jumps up to his final form, with Gohan not really worried. He just shows off his max power, and it about matches that of final form Frieza's. With Frieza being unsure of how evenly matched he is, he throws a punch towards Gohan, with the hybrid catching it and sending out a shockwave with Gohan smirking. He throws a punch back which sends the Emperor flying backwards. Shocked at the power Gohan had just showed off, he jumps straight towards Gohan, with the two beginning to clash in the air, and the area around them begins to shake with power, with the cliff even cracking a bit. Now everyone is impressed with Gohan's newfound power, and he's able to keep up with Frieza without even transforming. With the likes of Piccolo, who is currently watching from Whis' planet, is impressed at his student's growth. After all, this is the same scared kid he used to watch over, and now he's fighting on this level. It's incredible. With the Kais, who are also present, impressed at his power, thinking that he will be able to win without even transforming. But Piccolo is confused why Gohan hasn't gone into Super Saiyan yet, with Whis explaining how it seems Gohan has gotten a bit overconfident, something they might need to work on when he is next here. But for now, it might, do him some good. Now back on Earth, we see the battle rage on for a while longer, before Gohan eventually lets his overconfidence get to his head, telling Frieza to show off his full power and stop toying around. With Frieza smiling at what was just said, he begins to show off his golden form, which is still golden here, after all he still died to a Super Saiyan. With Gohan now mildly regretting letting Frieza transform, he proceeds to show off his newly found power, with Gohan jumping up to the God state, with this putting Gohan a little bit behind Frieza again. There is enough of a difference that Gohan can still fight and probably win. However, Frieza does have the advantage. Frieza mocks how the hybrid doesn't even stand a chance now, with Gohan standing his ground, before Frieza begins to take a battle stance himself. Thankfully, the battle is still very close, thanks to the fact that Gohan isn't too far behind Frieza right now, and also his technique is very good, plus the fact that Gohan doesn't really feel any sort of drain or anything from the God form thanks to his pretty good mastery over it. It leads to Gohan being relatively close to Frieza. And Gohan can hold his own against the Golden Warrior. The two share a battle which does last a short while, with Gohan managing to figure out the flaw with Frieza's new form. He begins to play a lot more defensively, dragging out the fight, with this plan working after a few minutes longer. Frieza eventually doesn't have the power to win anymore, and dropping out of his golden form. Frieza, who is panicking now, tries to gather the energy to destroy the planet. However, Gohan, after getting a bit confident earlier, is on guard a bit and can sense this, quickly destroying Frieza, and then dropping out of his Super Saiyan God form. He is pretty injured, but for the most part he's fine. Gohan, for the first time, is so happy he was training. After all, it had massively paid off. This is the first time Gohan has ever had to do anything like this, to fight off a villain. He had stepped in before to deal with small things like this, but for the first time, he actually managed to take down the major villain. But Gohan also understands that he has to keep up his training, as if Frieza had just a smaller bit better understanding of that form, it would have led to a lot of danger. However, he also had the thought that Broly was only over there, and he knows Broly is strong, just insane at the same time. With the group out of danger, they begin to celebrate, happy that they didn't need to rely on Goku, with Piccolo amazed at how Gohan had grown, and Goku even points out the fact that next time Gohan is here, he'll tell him well done, with Piccolo saying that he might pay a visit to Earth if he would like to go. With Goku agreeing and Goku joining everyone for the celebration, spending a bit of time on Earth before heading back off to train with Whis. Now, time continues on like normal. Like I said, Piccolo takes on the title of Apprentice Kai, and per usual, what normally follows Rotational F would be the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament, with things here lining up pretty normal, with one change being the team for Universe 7, with the lineup being Goku, Broly, Goten, Krillin and Tien. The lineup is like this for a few reasons. First of all, Gohan doesn't feel the need to be there. It's not a world-threatening event. Second of all, he doesn't want to change the day of his conference. After all, he's changing things every now and again to, go off and train with Whis. So the group just had to improvise, with them wanting to bring Piccolo. After all, he had grown incredibly strong. But Champa placed a rule which banned the Kais from going. With Piccolo having the title of a Kai, it leads to him being not able to join. So, under Piccolo's recommendation, they take Krillin as their choice. He's pretty strong, he has the Kaioken. For the most part, he can hold his own. With the Earthling being one of their best bets, as Boo isn't around and the androids aren't really up for fighting, and they don't know where 17 is. So it just leads them to, the offer of Krillin. And alongside this, Tien is also invited for pretty much the same reasons. Monoka isn't here as Whis doesn't see the point in it. He explains to Beerus how Goku is the most motivated out of the group to stay ahead of the 3 training partners he has. And Goku also spends 3 years in the time chamber. He takes each one of his training partners in for 1 year, and he does take Gohan in. Gohan does want to go in just so it leads to him not having to go train with Whis for a while. Goku loves the idea of getting to spend time training with each of his training partners, even if it's just for a year, and this ends up with Goku, growing quite strong. Alongside this, Goten also grows up during this time. I think this is around the right time I would make him age up. He's a bit older, he's been in Time Chamber twice, he's probably done some training in the Whis' God Key staff area, and it's just led to him aging up quite fast, so that's why he's going to be using a bit of an older design for him. Now, this leads to the tournament coming around like normal, and let's get into it. Now, Goku decides to let Broly go first. After all, he hasn't had a good match since he came to Earth, and Goku feels a bit bad for it, so he gives Broly this one. With Broly beginning his battle, he starts off against Botamo. Broly doesn't have an issue during this match, he just sort of defeats Botamo with ease. Following this match is Frost up against Broly, and Broly doesn't want to give Frost a chance to transform. After all, this looks like the Frieza person who his father told him about, the person who came to Earth recently, and the person who transformed into a golden form which was incredibly strong. So Broly doesn't play around and transforms up to his Ikari form and knocks Frost out of the ring, dealing with him very fast, leaving the Frost Demon to keep his nice guy persona. Following this match is Broly up against Vegeta. Broly actually has a hard time in this match. He's not a mean-hearted person, he can't throw insults around like other Saiyans, so he has to come up with another way to defeat him. However, some fun note would be hearing the likes of Chi-Chi and Paragus throwing insults out to Broly to use. It's really funny, you could probably hear some good ones, and eventually it would become a challenge between the parents to come up with the better insult. But Broly does come up with an idea at some point. At first, he did try to overpower the robot, but he had a hard time, so he came up with his own better idea. Broly flies to the very top of the arena, with it still being in-sealed to make sure that Broly is, running out of energy and getting overheated fast. With Broly jumping up to his Super Saiyan state and begins to charge up a massive mouth beam, he then aims it down towards the robot and begins hurling a lot of ki at him, with the beam actually engulfing the robot. Everyone's confused at what Broly's doing. After all, this probably won't work. However, Broly holds the beam for a while, and he gets angrier and angrier, and his energy's exerting more and more power. And after these few minutes are up, he ends the beam. With everyone looking around to see what happened, they see Vegeta is stood up fine. He's hardly been hurt, there's probably a few scuff marks on him, but nothing major. However, as the smoke begins to settle, everyone looks to the ground and see the ground Vegeta was actually stood on is completely destroyed. Nothing is there stopping Vegeta from touching the floor, meaning that Vegeta has actually lost by ring out. With everyone really surprised at what happened, it leaves Vegeta pretty much out of the ring, meaning Broly wins. Broly, with a smile, drops out of his Super Saiyan form, sweating heavily, and begins to pant for fresh air out of the dome. With everyone impressed by Broly's thinking, the Saiyan looks towards the stands where his friends are. He explains how he would like to call it there. Everyone is confused and Beerus is angry. This is one of his strongest fighters and he wants to call it now. He's just won 3 matches in a row. However, Whis sort of understands why Broly's doing this. He explains how Broly probably started to lose his cool during that match. Broly knows that when he loses his cool, people can get severely hurt. For now, Broly wants to leave just to make sure that everyone comes out of this A-OK. With Broly confirming this, everyone congratulates Broly on doing so well, and Broly goes on to explain to Goku how he held on to his Super Saiyan form just a little bit better, but he felt the rage bubbling up inside of him. He didn't want to hurt anyone too severely, and he even apologised to Vegeta in case he hurt his feelings in any way. With the Metal Man not really taking any note, they shake hands and call it a day. Now after this, Vados and Whis fix the arena, with the next match being Goten vs Cabba. Something I didn't bring up was probably the interaction between Cabba and the Universe 7 Saiyans. They noticed he was a Saiyan, they had a small introduction, and they just talked a little bit. Cabba and Goten took a liking to one another, but nothing much was done. Now, during this match, the two spend most of the fight in base form, having a good little fun match with each other. When the two finish this sort of intense base form match, Goten asks Cabba if he can jump up to Super Saiyan so they can have a stronger fight. However, much like normal, he explains how he can't turn into that Super Saiyan thing, and asks if Goten can teach him. However, Goten is unsure of if he can do this. He's not really one for the teaching type, and he apologises as he doesn't really know what to do with this. He does go on to explain how if he ever gets a chance he will try and do it again, but for now, let's just finish this fight in our base forms. With Cabba agreeing to this, they have a funny little final matchup before finishing it with Goten coming out on top. Leaving the final enemy on Universe 6's team being hit, with the assassin entering the ring. Goten is unsure how to handle this, so he jumps up to his Super Saiyan God form. Goten able to hold this a lot better. He gets ready to rush the assassin, with him jumping up to his max speed, going for a punch. However, it falls short, with Hit using his time skip to hit Goten straight in the gut, sending the young hybrid staggering backwards, with this putting Goten on one knee and making him grip his shirt where he was hit. Goten is beginning to pull himself off the ground, and this amuses Hit. He turns to Goten and begins to land multiple hits on him, using his time skip to make it so it's near impossible to figure out where he's hitting, with this putting the hybrid back on the floor and actually knocking him out of his god state. Hit thinking that this match is over, he turns towards the ref and tells him to call the match. However, when the ref is just about to do so, Goten pulls himself off the floor. With Hit turning around to see this, he looks confused, with Goten jumping back up to his god form before taunting Hit. This makes Hit chuckle a little bit. He turns around, jumps forward to land another attack. However, when Hit gets close to Goten, his attack is grabbed, with Goten smirking and then headbutting the assassin, not wasting a single second. This makes the assassin stagger backwards a bit, and from the crowd a Chi-Chi's cheer is heard over everyone else. But after that one hit, Goten falls to the floor with a huge smirk on his face. With this being the end of the match, Goku runs into the ring to grab his son. Grabbing his son, he tells him he did a great job, with Goten getting taken up to the nearby Piccolo, who begins to heal the boy, and then is looked after by Chi-Chi, who is a mixture of proud and annoyed at her son for, what he just did, but then begins to shout down to Goku that he needs to win this match fast to avenge their son. With the last few fighters of Universe 7 having lost their confidence, being Krillin and Tien, well, everyone other than Goku has. Goku is fairly confident he can win this one, with the likes of Whis, Goten and Broly all pretty sure Goku could win this as well. Now, Goten is the most confident in his father. He's one of the few people to see Goku's newest form, and he's pretty excited to see if he'll use it here. Goku jumps into the ring, with Hit having been shocked by the power shown by the Saiyans so far. He's interested in the power in this last one. After all, he's the strongest from what he can sense. After doing a bit of a warm-up, Goku takes a fighting pose. Hit is amused that Goku hasn't showed off his, any of his Super Saiyan forms, but Goku goes on to explain how he just needs to warm up a little bit. Hope Hit doesn't mind. with Goku and Hit exchanging blows for a few seconds, with Goku trying to break down how the time skip works. With Goku, after watching Goten, he has a bit of a better understanding of how it works. But after this bit of play with Hit, Goku jumps away and understands he won't be able to win this in his base form. He will have to go all out. Goku goes on to share how Hit will be the first true opponent to actually face this form. With the likes of Whis, Goten and Broly all know what Goku is about to do, Goku stands still for a moment. He takes a small breath out before getting coated in a blue aura. His hair begins to stick up much like his Super Saiyan state, but it's blue, and Goku's power almost feels like the God Key. Everyone is confused at what Goku's showing off, but Goten fills everyone in what this form is, with this being the combination between Super Saiyan God and a Super Saiyan, with everyone amazed at Goku's genius. After all, he's the only one to have done it here. But Goten goes on to explain how this isn't exactly where Dad's power increase ends. If Dad wants, he can take it up a bit further, but he might not need it here, with this shocking everyone even more. However, this might not be needed. After all, Goku has benefited heavily from the rotation of training partners. Saiyans grow well when they're training with other Saiyans. Goku's had a plethora of other Saiyans to train with, and alongside that, Goku has had a goal to stay ahead of someone and catch up with someone. Broly is someone you can't even look past. Broly can grow incredibly strong in a short amount of time. Broly has probably jumped over Goku multiple times, meaning that Goku is having to push himself harder than ever to make sure that he stays ahead of Broly. And this has led to him growing incredibly strong. Goku is pushing himself harder than he has ever done, which has led to him being a lot stronger than the Goku from canon. So this version of Blue Goku is probably a little bit weaker than Hit here, and even now he has a bit of a better understanding of how Hit's time skip works, so Goku is in a very good advantage here. Now, Goku does begin this fight with him, trading blows with Hit for a while, but it isn't really working out in Goku's favour. Goku has figured out how the time skip works, and he is countering it well, understanding how Hit moves a bit better as well. With Goku and Hit exchanging blows for a while, Goku is easily doing this, and he feels like he has the power to do this now, but he might have to get the extra little bit. After all, Hit is increasing his time skip even more as the fight goes on. Goku just needs to beat it. With one small push, he might be able to do this. Goku explains to Hit how this is something he wanted to say for Beerus, but you're a good enough opponent to show off to as well. Hopefully this will make you use all of your powers, but if not, I suppose this match will be over anyway. Goku explains how he's tried this in the past. He did it with Super Saiyan and it just didn't feel right. Hopefully this feels much better. Goku then activates his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, which I know isn't in the manga, but I love it, so it's in here. Goku, for a start, doesn't jump up to 10 times. He jumps up to only 4 times. Another few things I want to bring up is Goku has a better mastery over the Kaioken. He's trained to use Super Saiyan Kaioken. It's just led to him having a much better understanding of how the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken works, leading to this Goku understanding how this technique works a lot better. And Goku begins to outpower Hit, he begins to outspeed Hit, he's breaking through his time skip at only a 4 times increase. Goku begins to beat Hit easily, however, much like normal, he doesn't want to win when Hit's holding back, so he forfeits the match, with Beerus going mental at this, but it leaves Tien and Krillin to fight Hit. However, thanks to the fact that Goku had gained Hit's respect, and alongside that Goten had also gained some of Hit's respect, he throws the match much like he did with Minoka, which is kind of funny because 1, that means Krillin gets this impressive win, sort of, and 2, it leads to everything lining up a bit like canon. Zeno does show up, Goku makes friends with a small demon god scary monster, and things go back to normal. Like normal, Beerus does wish back his brother's Earth, and Piccolo goes off to train with the Kaiser again, Goku heads off to train with, Whis again, and the rotation begins once again. Now things naturally would go into the Goku Black arc here, but there's a change in this timeline, and I want to cover it. Now, off in the world of Kais, we see 2 Kais training against one another, laughing, sparring, and having a good time. One of these Kais is Piccolo, and the other one is also another green man. It's Zamasu. You see, once Piccolo had become an apprentice Kai, he had to go around and meet some of the other universe's Kais, and during this he had become friends with Zamasu. Zamasu, sharing the same rank as Piccolo, also took a liking to Piccolo. Plus, they're both green. They're green brothers now. But Zamasu would still have grown his issue for mortals. Now, Piccolo, thanks to being a much more sociable person, would probably pick up on this, and maybe even Zamasu would share it with Piccolo. With Piccolo being someone who probably could help here. One day, during their sparring sessions, Zamasu explains to Piccolo his issues with mortals, and this is before he's gone fully crazy mental mode, and still when he was willing to try and learn. Piccolo would probably explain his own past here. He would explain to his new friend that he was created to take over the world, and to destroy humanity. But thankfully, two people gave him a chance. Two people gave him a chance to see the error of his ways, to see the happiness in the world, and these two people are now some of his closest friends. Piccolo, for the most part, had never hurt anyone, and he was so happy he did. He had only ever really bothered or really hurt one or two people, and he regrets those two small actions. But he understands that the planet he was born on, the planet he was told to take over and destroy, is the most beautiful planet he's ever seen. And now some of his best friends are Earthlings, and they've helped him grow and understand how the world works better. Alongside that, made him a better person. So, if you think mortals are so bad, Zamasu, go spend some time among them. Try and see if you can fix them or change how they will, live their life. After all, if you do something like this and you regret it, it will stick with you for the rest of your life, and you'll never be able to change that. If you have an issue with mortals, Zamasu, don't destroy them. Guide them in the right direction. We are gods after all, aren't we? With Piccolo smirking at this, before telling Zamasu that he best head off, he wants to go see the kids who his friends have made, and make sure that they're keeping up with their training, with him using the Kai Kai to leave, but stopping at Goasu's place first. Piccolo goes on to explain what he's found out about Zamasu to Goasu, telling him that he should probably keep an eye on him, but if he would let him interfere with the mortal world, it might change his view on life. It might stop him from doing something he'll regret. With Goasu understanding this, he does decide to turn a blind eye, with Zamasu taking in what his new friend has just said, and he holds it near him for a while. And after a while of thinking about it, he does decide to spend some time around mortals, with him trying to guide the life of some mortal planets in the right direction. And even though he isn't supposed to interfere, Zamasu, thanks to the warning of Piccolo, has turned a blind eye, with Zamasu trying to fix his outlook on life. And it does take a while, but Zamasu finally sees what Piccolo meant. Some of these planets, some of these mortals are brilliant. They are so genius and have their own ways about things. And with the fact that Piccolo was a lot more sociable here, it led to one very unstable Kai, becoming good and seeing the light. And this led to Zamasu from ever doing the Zero Mortals plan, ever taking on the future timeline. So everything goes by normal, nothing of danger happens. But this is where I'm leaving this part. Thank you for watching this. Like I said at the start, I do understand that this wife is very wacky, very zany, and probably way out of proportions, but I believe that I've had fun with it. And from where I am right now, it's one more part. The tournament. I don't really know how I'm going to handle this, I'm going to be honest. It's a very big thing. This is the first major thing. I know a lot of people brush over a lot of the smaller fights, so that's probably what I'll do. But I hope everyone's looking forward to it. I hope everyone likes the fact that Zamasu is still here and still a good guy, thanks to the fact that Piccolo is 100 times more sociable. And for that, I hope everyone has a good day or a great night, and I'll see you next time.